All right, welcome to our first episode. Once our public launch has hit here on Relay, we are so excited. Relay has been around for almost a year now. It's been a subscription service. We've been putting out content 2 or 3 times a week that we have been so excited about, and we are even more excited to be coming to you in a more open format, whether it's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We are so excited. So we are a 9-person team, a super diverse group of people from all different backgrounds, different jobs within the running industry, different paces, mostly my slow pace compared to everyone else's paces. And we're just so excited to be bringing some really interesting and fun content your way. Just a quick heads up, we're coming at you twice a week. So every Tuesday is going to be group chat, just like we're doing today, talking about different topics in running, probably a little more timely in terms of like, hey, what's currently happening in the sport than we're going to be doing today. And then on Friday, we're going to be having a series of mini-series that are going to pop up continuously throughout the month. Things like Book Club and Coach's Corner and Talk with a Pro and the podcast that Tommie is doing with Kafuzi that still doesn't have a name. We will have a name. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll go nameless the whole year. Who knows? Maybe you can submit a name. Actually, we can do that right now. If you want to name Tommie in Kafuzi's podcast, you have a good idea for that podcast. It's about basically influencers in the wild, running shoe edition. Email us, info.relaypodcast@gmail.com. We'll go over it next week. But I'm really excited. Today on the show, if you can see us on YouTube, you already know this. It's myself, Matt Chittim, Lindsey Hein, Thweatt, Tommie Runz, Stefanie Flippin, and Peter Bromka. Not on the call today, but on the team are Kara Goucher, Marcus Brown, and I'm drawing a blank. I just had the whole team ready to go, and now I'm drawing a blank. I said his name 10 times already. All right, this is what happens to me. I'm that person who always remembers 8, but it's always a different 8. It's always a different 8. But anyway, we're gonna get into it. I guess before we get into the topics of what have we been the most excited about in 2023 from running perspective, and then secondly, what are we most excited to see for the rest of the year? Let's talk about just why you joined Relay. So we'll just kind of go around the corner. I'll moderate this. Lindsey, if you want to start, why were you excited to join Relay from the beginning?
Dude, I was like, don't go to me first. So I have been hosting a podcast solo for 7 years, and when Matt came to me with this idea, I was like, okay. And I had specific people I thought would be great fits for the group, and I get lonely sometimes because I work by myself, and I thought more than anything this is going to be really fun to connect with so-called colleagues in the industry, and that's what it's been. We have so much fun together, and I wanted to put out really fun, different content. My podcast is like an interview style, one-on-one every single week, and so I just wanted the opportunity to collaborate with an awesome group of people, and here we are. Tommie, you're next. Handing off.
Yeah, me. You said me? Because I couldn't hear you. So it's me, and I really, really enjoyed the thought and concept that I'd have an open opportunity to throw jabs at Peter. That's really why I joined. I'm like, I could do this in open forum, and I was like, yeah, definitely want to get on that one. But honestly, it was just a really cool opportunity. Like Lindsey said, doing things kind of in your own bubble can be fun and creative and all that stuff, but it was just a really dope opportunity to meet and just get to know some of these really cool people more closely, and just not every day that you get to see a shirt like this that Peter has on. So I'm just glad to be a part of this whole thing.
I've officially worn a shirt that's cooler than I am, so this is pretty clear at this point.
Yeah, that's tough to do, though. I mean, that's
Can you just tell everybody before we move to Stefanie what the shirt is? Because we've been talking about this shirt offline for a while.
So the shirt looks unique because I think it is. Yeah, it's one of one. It's these shirts that are bleached, and then each one comes out. So you buy the shirt. So my friends from the Speed Project, which is based in California, they're pretty trendy. They do things that are way cooler than I am. And so they said, they put up a picture of a shirt and said, your shirt will not look like the shirt, whatever shirt you buy. What I liked was the slogan. It said it was better next year, which was kind of a turn on. They've been doing this thing, it's like any event promoter. They've been doing it for many years now, and everyone's always they do it with a bunch of cool kids. I don't think they'd mind me saying that. And so they're always like, well, it's it's not what it was last year. And like every year, the cool kids who got invited last year say that, and so they turned it on its head. And yeah, that's why I'm wearing it. I didn't even go this year, but I guess it's better next year.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go next. About this time last year, Matt you were like, so we're gonna start this thing. I gave you a bunch of horrible names. I'm glad you didn't go with. And then he's like, we're gonna call it Relay. I'm like, that's a much better name. And I felt like it was like one of those long, slow, like when you try to. It reminded me of when you try to ask someone out, and you're like, "What if you wanted to? Would you want to go? Are you thinking of going to that concert?" And then you're like, I'm asking you if you actually want to go to the concert. Because for about a month or two, I was like, you should totally do that, Matt. You should definitely find some collaborators. I think it could work for all these reasons. And then you were like, I think I recall out of the blue, I got a text that was like, no bullshit. I'm actually inviting you to be part of this.
I had asked you many times. I don't understand how you didn't understand.
I felt like it was like, and if you wanted to talk about that, yeah, I think I was thinking, however I conceptualized it in my mind, it wasn't as awesome as this, and it wasn't.
I wasn't standing out your window with a boombox over my head, but I thought I was being pretty explicit.
And that right there, folks, is Relay is for you if you get that reference, and it's probably not for you. Like, what? So yeah, we started in September, and it's been a joy. We have actually, that's great that we have the two newest members on the call, because I'm excited to hear from both of you as we go along what it's been like to join midstream. I think we all felt like we were fumbling about last fall, but had a blast, and so it feels like we're hitting our stride. And some of my highlights have been from the last couple months with you guys on the team.
Yeah, Laura, you want to go next?
Yeah. So I'm the newest Relay member. I joined the squad like in May, I think. So it's only been like 2 months for me. But yeah, I was lucky enough to be invited on to do a podcast with this crew back in the spring before my Boston debut. And we had a blast. And I loved the call. I loved the dialogue. I loved that it wasn't just like a one-on-one podcast. It was just very different from any other recording I'd ever done. And then, yeah, back in early May, I get this email from Lindsey, and it's really long. And she started with, okay, sit down, read this, and then just think about it. And she was like, no hurry to get back to me, and then she was essentially inviting me to join the crew, and I was so honored. So I immediately emailed back, and I was like, I don't have to think about it, and I'm in. And to be honest, I wasn't quite sure, like, what else Relay, like, was. So over the last 2 months, it's been really fun to kind of get a feel for the team, get to know everyone. And I think the coolest thing for me is, as you guys have touched on, everyone on the team comes from very different backgrounds within the industry and within the sport. And I think that is really unique. And then having conversations because of that, I think really elevates the content that we have and what we do. So I'm really excited to jump in, and I'm still learning. But yeah, it's been really fun, and I can't wait to get going. So yay.
I just want to say that.
Oh, hold on, Laura. I loved like our conversation about getting you on the team. So Lindsey and I were part of it, and it was funny. So we thought we were going into it like with a recruiting pitch. Like, we got to convince Laura that she wants to join.
Didn't need one.
And you thought it was a job interview? So the answers were really
yeah,
like,
did.
I'm just so excited that you, like, it was like classic job interview 101 answers. We're like, we started looking at each other like, what's going on here? Like,
yeah, I got really nervous.
We were going to have to, like, persuade you.
No, and I was like, be cool. Like, I was like, I don't want to, like, it's like, again, it's like dating. It's like, you want to say yes immediately, but you're like, be cool, Like, I don't want to, like, come in too hot and too strong and then, like, turn you guys off. So, but I was so pumped. I was like, oh, I don't even have to think about this. Like, I don't even know what I'm jumping into necessarily as far as, like, what I needed, like, what this would require. But I was like, I'm not even going to think about it. I'm just going to jump in and find out.
Laura said all of her mantras before she got on the call. You are strong. You are.
Yeah, yeah, I did. Yeah.
I think
you can do this. Believe in yourself.
Of like, when there's this many of us when we take on, like, oh, could we reach out to this pro or like reach out to this person, and of the 8, I mean, I think maybe everyone else is a little bit more like me. I'm like, oh, I don't know that person. I would have to cold approach them. I'm not sure. And so then to have like someone like Kara, I just assume she knows everyone. Mike has like worked with every brand, and so then they're like, well, I sent him a message, but it doesn't say that they've read it yet. And you're like, okay, like, we're just a bunch of people. And even if you are a pro runner or an Olympian, like you're still like, I'm not sure if they're going to get back to me. It's given me confidence to like reach out to more people and just be like, yeah.
And wear that shirt. Look at you. You have so much confidence.
Can I just jump in here real quick and just tell everybody it is a powerful thing to give a quick yes and stop trying to be cool. Like everybody out there listening, stop trying to be cool. If you know you're going to do something, just say yes because it makes everybody feel better. And yeah, Laura, you're awesome for just being like, yeah, I want to do it. I love it.
Yep,
I
just
played
say yes.
hardball. I forgot to say that for like a week or so. And then Matt's
Tommie
like,
playing
hey.
hard to get.
Let him sweat.
I knew my answer, really, so.
Yeah, you were like, I don't know, man. I'm busy. I'm pretty busy. I gotta
I did not
think
say-
about
I did
this.
not say the word. I didn't say ball.
Like, how about you call Kafuzi? He's like, yeah, I'll talk to you next week, I guess. I'll figure it out.
Stephanie, how did you get roped into this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Matt. Well, first of all, it's not like I have like this like. It's not an embarrassment, Matt, by any means. But I feel like you and I have recorded so many podcasts together that I never want your audience to be like, oh, this freaking girl again. Like, God, like I don't want to hear about her latest like foray, like her latest like 14-hour run or something like that. So when you called me with the idea, Matt, I was obviously really excited about it. I thought it was a stellar idea. I think you had just pitched it maybe to Zoe at the time, and like I've been super familiar with like groups like Free Trail, what they've been doing, and like kind of like what Lindsey mentioned, I just don't feel like there's a group like us who is so diverse in every sense of the word. And I think that's just so unique. It brings something new to the media space and like the podcasting world. And especially what Lindsey mentioned about like a team aspect, even though like I do host a podcast, but that's not like my primary job. I feel like I live really rural. I typically train by myself. Like I love any chance to be a part of a team. Like that's always like what I'm all about. Like any like brand that I work with, like my current sponsor, like my favorite aspect is always the team aspect, the community building aspect. So yeah, that's my favorite part about Relay. I feel like I've gotten to know so many different people, built so many friendships that I probably wouldn't have been able to do without it. And yeah, and I feel like that's naturally happening with our audience as well, which is really neat.
All right, so let's get into the questions for this week. Again, in future weeks, it'll probably be a little bit more targeted, like, hey, what happened this weekend, or stuff like that, or what's coming up, right? So we see UTMB is going to be coming up in the future, right? We have Worlds coming up in the future as well, and as we dive into the fall, we'll have major marathons and all of that sort of thing, and we'll be covering all of that stuff with some fun analysis and commentary and things like that. But because this is our first episode and we're kind of like halfway through the year, this is a great time to kind of reflect on what we've seen and also, look forward to some of the things that we're excited to see in the future. So, Tommie, I'm going to start with you on both of these questions because you might have to bug out a little early, so I want to make sure that we hear your responses. So, Tommie, so far in 2023, what have you been the most excited about in the running world?
I mean, I'm just loving track and field right now. And I'm new to this sport of running in general. I started running in 2018. So and I didn't start obviously in the track side. So I was all Kipchoge'd out and, Kira D'Amato and all that stuff for the marathon. But then I had a chance to go to Worlds last year and then we're just kind of thrown into this whole different atmosphere and environment, And so now I'm knowing people's names and stuff and watching people just go tear down some of these races and go after records fairly open about it too, not just just maybe they're going for it and they are. And I think it's just really exciting and to see so many people break a record, but then the people that follow right behind them break American records Nikki Hills. It's just exciting. All of it is just exciting, and I'm just every time I see Diamond League anything, I'm I'm either tuning in or I'm not looking at Instagram for the whole day so I can go back and watch what actually happened. So I'm really excited about just track and field right now, honestly.
Is there a certain event that you find yourself most gravitated to, or certain athletes that you're all right, I want to make sure I see this person or those people?
No, I mean, I think like Jakob Ingebrigtsen's really fun to kind of like watch. Like, I feel like I just want to see him just continue to get better and faster at it. But then I also like seeing his interviews and be like, this dude's an asshole a little bit, you know?
He is very confident.
Yeah.
My
Yeah,
goodness.
and like, and I'm okay with I'm okay with it, you know, because I think that like every now and then there has to be somebody like that, you know, that just like says what they feel or whatever. And you don't really see too many people like his competitors saying anything really bad about him. So like maybe there's some type of, you know, respect for it there, but he's pulling them, and that's dope. And so like I always kind of like just tune into people like that, and then just I'm definitely partial to like the 5,000 and 10,000 meter. I just like the longer like grind of those races, so I just lean towards those as well. But everything Diamond League is pretty exciting because like almost every race has like a name that you maybe could or should know about. So yeah.
No, that's a good one. All right, how about you, Steph?
Yeah. I mean, kind of like, I was just nodding along everything Tommie was saying. I feel like for me, like, obviously, like, I'm in the trail and ultra world, but I just think, like the female identifying performances across the board, like, from, like, literally every distance, like, even from, like, the 100-meter, like, you know, and seeing someone that's 34 years old and a mom, like, just absolutely crushing it and on a world's team. All the way like up to the marathon, like it's just, and you know, and obviously well into the trail and ultra world with Courtney and what she's been doing. I just feel like it's so inspiring, and I feel like for women in the running world right now, regardless of surface, for me it's almost like this, maybe like a Roger Bannister type like movement where like, even for me, where like clearly I'm not like a miler or anything like that, but just seeing these women break through barriers has been really empowering to me, and being like, they can do it, like they're doing it, like I can do it too. I can continue to dream that big and continue to go after big goals as I enter like my mid-30s. Yeah, so I feel like the momentum has been building with women in track and field. And like I said, trail and ultra, and I'm excited to see it just continue with this ball like rolling and seeing what's going to happen next.
Laura, do you have any thoughts on that as someone who's in the middle of that from an athlete perspective, and also is like trains with and is friends with a lot of the people that Steph might even be referencing?
Yeah, I was just nodding along over here to everything that Steph said and Tommie. I think right now it's really cool, like, we're in a completely new space in the sport, especially I think on the women's side of things, from like throws, jumps, sprints, distance. Like you're literally seeing these limits and records get broken, and like these limits getting pushed and redefined in ways like all the way through the sport. It's like this huge ripple effect. You know, and it's like we started to kind of see that, you know, back in like 2018 and 2017 with like Shalane winning a major, and then Des following them with Boston, and you know, it's like slowly start chipping away, and then you know, you had Sarah Hall chasing the marathon record and getting super close, and then you had Kiera breaking it, and then you had Emily breaking it a couple months later, and you're seeing the same thing on the track with all these new American records in the mile and the 5K and the 10K and in the hurdles and the 400, and it's just so exciting right now. So again, I'm in my mid-30s. I've been doing this a long time, and sometimes it's easy to kind of, I find myself getting caught up in like, oh, like, you know, how much longer can I do this? Am I going to keep improving? Is this like, am I at the end of my career? And then I see things like this, and like Stefanie was saying, I see moms in their 30s, you know, winning 100 meters at Diamond Leagues and Olympic Games, or, you know, breaking American records and like the roads and like the longer distances. And you see all these people who are older than you and have been in the sport as long or longer than you, and they're like at the pinnacle of their career, and they're redefining what is possible. And so you look at that and you're like, okay, like, why am I limiting myself? Why do I think that I've tapped my potential when women are proving time and time again, year after year, like race after race, that you can keep like knocking on that door. And so it's just a really empowering time, I think, for all of us in the sport. And I just, you just feed off of each other. And I think that's also why we're seeing the things that we're seeing, is because of that empowering piece of it, and that inspirational piece. So it's pretty cool. It's a great time to be in the sport. Yeah.
Now, do you have any specific thoughts, like what your I guess like to answer the question that everyone else is answering, like what your highlights so far in 2023? Is it what Steph has said, or is it something different?
It's funny when you asked that question in my mind, I was like going blank because I like couldn't think of like, I feel like we've seen so many things since January. But yeah, I think for me, like Tommie was saying, the track and field world is really exciting right now, again, because it's every event. And so watching USA's a couple weeks ago, I was like glued to the TV for like every single event, and just I'm getting into it in a completely new way than I think I have before. And so that's been really fun. I'm really pumped for Worlds. And then I'm not in the trail world, but I streamed Western States for the first time, and oh my God, like it was one of those where like you're watching Courtney and like, you know, just everyone who's running 100 miles and the way that they're doing it, and just seeing the records and limits being pushed on that side of things was also really cool for me. And for like a split second, I was like, what would it be like to run 100 miles? Like, could you do it? But then I was like, snap out of it, Laura. Like, no, like you don't want to know what that would be like.
Maybe you do.
That was really cool. Following the trail scene this summer has been kind of new for me, and I've loved it. It's been really cool to kind of see the sport from a completely different side, a side that I haven't always been as involved in. So I've really enjoyed that piece.
Heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Laura will be joining Ultra Scene. We're breaking the news right now.
Courtney, you got me to think for like a second, like what it might be like, and then I was like, no, stop. A marathon is plenty long for you.
I love that because truthfully, like as you can see, like I'm like kind of sweaty right now. I had texted Matt. I was like, I gotta get in this 2-hour trail run. I might be a few minutes late. But okay, so I had like a 25-minute like continuous like hill climb that I like at like a tempo effort that I was supposed to do within my run this morning. And what's crazy is like Laura, what you just said, like here I am like going up, I don't know, it was probably like 17% grade or something. And like in my mind, I'm like, my brain's like going to like the finishing, like, you know, at like some like Diamond League. I'm like envisioning like all of these like races. I'm like, yeah, you can do it. And I'm like literally going so much slower. Like,
cool. So we're both doing that. Okay.
Like the last 100 meters here. But it's so cool. It's so cool to be able to like pull from all different like reaches of the sport. And I just, that's again, just what's so neat about our group here as well.
Oh man, I will say, as a fan of the sport, tracking live streams for ultra races, I find the most conducive for also living your life like with a family. You know, if I'm watching the 5K or the mile, I'm like, okay, block that, and then you're like, I can't talk right now. Yeah. Like, even for the marathon, I'm like, and then for the 100, I just sort of like will have it over on the side, and I just go about my day, and I'm like, oh wow, that's really cool. And then I just go back, and then you know it's dinner time, and they're like, can we set the table? And you're like, I'm still tracking that race from the moment we woke up, but
they're still out there.
Like,
they're still out there, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like 20 more miles to go. I'm like, oh my God. It really puts it into perspective.
It's gonna come down to a kick.
Yeah, it's gonna
remember that race I told you that started like last week? Yeah, they're about to finish. It's gonna be great.
I mean, that's how I feel with these 200s. We don't have to talk about 200s now. I'm not ready to. But like, you're like, oh man, my life is gone. I've lived most of my recent memory, and they've all been out there running the entire time.
Yeah. Like legit.
Oh,
Peter, that's a great point, because I feel the same way. Like how with baseball, like when I was a kid, it was like, like the baseball would just be on in the background. Now it's different now. They have like a pitch clock, and they've like shortened the game to like 2 hours. But it was like it was just on. Like usually it was like the radio. Like the baseball game would be on the radio in the background, and my dad would just be listening to it, and my childhood, like that was just like the background noise of my childhood. But it's so true. Like I feel the exact same way when I hop on all these live streams. Like they're just around. My kids are like, "What is going on?" Like, and like the only way I can get them to keep watching it. Like I basically have YouTube on the TV, and they're like, "We're watching it." It's like occasionally they'll be like, "Can I change the channel, please?" I'm like, "Oh, see that? I know that person." It's like Dylan Bowman have to be on television. Like, you don't know him. I'm like, yeah, look, he's on my phone. So it gives me like an extra 25 minutes of keeping on the television.
Okay. Yeah. Someday your children are going to meet Debo, and they're going to be like, "Wait a second, I know your voice." Been in my brain.
Yeah. Like, you're the reason I couldn't watch my 4th hour of Bluey because of you.
I just want to say, pile on everything you said about women in the sport right now. I think that I wish I could go further back than just like a week and a half ago with Faith Kipyegon to say like,
Oh my
to
God.
act as though I'm like really boiling the ocean the last 6 months and thinking about what was highest. But that was just like blew so many minds and blew my mind. And watching it live
Yeah.
and seeing
I
her
know,
like come
3 in
around
a
the bend
row.
and just
Three.
like,
Ugh.
I think we were on this. Was this on the call 2 weeks ago where I was like, it was only when Kipchoge broke 2. A friend was online and he's like, we need to start rallying momentum around women's time barriers. Like, when are we going to see a woman break 4? And I was like, I appreciate what you're trying to do, man, but like, come on, like, just let's talk about something that feels like it's actually going to happen. And then I was just like, oh my
We're
God,
gonna
like,
see
how
it.
many more years am I going to live? We like this is nuts. When you slice 5 seconds off a record, it's still insanely fast, but it's like starts to break your brain.
Yeah, I'm still processing that, to be honest. All 3 of those. Like, I'm like, what?
Yeah, all
like,
3.
We are
3 and a-
tapping on the
You're
door
kidding.
of all of these huge, like, barriers, right? Sub 14 in the 5. We've already gone sub 350 in the 15, and now we're going to go, like, sub 4 in the mile. Like, my brain is just like, I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. What do I do
And to
with
your
this?
point, like she's also put together a season that's just like
Right.
amazing.
Yeah.
Like you've been
Wasn't just
following
one
her as
yeah.
opposed to just like coming out of nowhere, hitting a race and disappearing. Like it's so much more fun to follow.
She's
her.
consistently doing it. I'm like, it's wow. Wow.
I mean, if
I
she
don't
was
even
only
have words. I don't even have words.
If she was only
For those of you
professional
who-
for one season, she'd be in the Hall of Fame just with this one season.
Oh, just yeah.
Yeah.
I mention my dad a lot on relay because he's a big track nerd, and like so I start to predict the things he'll say, and he's like, well, you know what the people. So my dad starts most of his days by clicking on Let'sRun.com, which is not advisable. Like 9 out of 10 doctors have advised like do not do this, and he's like, the people on the message boards think that. I'm like, exactly. Like
Yeah.
you're doing it well when the message boards are like, oh, I could never do that. It must be. She must be cheating. And you're like,
That's great. All right, I think I'm last to go here. For me, I'm going to pick a specific race. I think again, it's hard to boil it down. There were so many awesome moments, but I think the one like in the moment, like what I was like most jazzed about witnessing was the Boston Marathon this year. Like again, I wasn't there for the race. I was watching again. I was there before the race. Like, during that weekend, we caught up with some people. That was fun. But I was watching like in my TV room, and it was just such a high quality race from the men and the women. It was just so enjoyable to see those lead packs. We had so many different. Not that it was like the best marathon ever, but I just felt like it was just really interesting, both the men's and women's top field, and in the moment it was just so captivating to see it go all the way to the wire and having some people, and they're like, oh, like I don't know this person, but that's exciting, but I know that person, and that's exciting too. Like I feel like it was a nice mix of like people I knew a lot about, and again, this is just me personally. Other people might know everything about everybody, and some people I knew a lot about, right? So you're like, oh, Helen O'Beary, this is amazing. I can't wait to see. And then like other people in the lead pack, I'm like, I don't know her as well, but like I know like Emma Bates is there, and that's exciting. And it was just a really wonderful morning, just from a viewing perspective. Again, there's a lot of things with the broadcast I wish would have changed, but like I feel like the actual race itself was really exciting at the front of the field, and it was like, wow, like this is super fun. And like that was one of those moments where like I don't get to commandeer the TV that often, but I was like, as Peter described like the 5K, I was like, everyone stay away. I'm locked in, and this is really good. And luckily, like it's only 2.5 hour viewing experience. But for me, that was the big one, and I think a close second was watching Western States, and seeing Tom Evans and Dakota Jones leave Forest Hill and texting Steph because she was there watching it happen. Like, this is amazing. And then like not that long after, seeing Courtney Dauwalter like just hammering, but like looking so at ease while doing it. And I'm like texting Steph, I'm like, how fast is she going? It's hard to tell on TV. She's like, I think she's running 6:30 pace like down Cal Street. I was like, oh my God, this is insane. She's at mile 68. Like, what is going on right now?
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, I should have realized that too about Boston. Boston is like hands down one of my top like memories this year. Just spectating. This was my first year spectating. I had horrific blisters on my hands from cowbell, like so bad. You guys, I couldn't grip a coffee cup the next morning. Like Carolyn's like 12-year-old daughter was like holding like my coffee mug for me. Like my hands were so destroyed. I had no voice. It was epic, and I wouldn't have changed a thing. It was so much fun.
I remember that scream from the side. Yeah, you two were fully into it.
We went like all in for like
That's who Peter was
7 hours.
That's what Peter
See,
was
that's
pointing
what makes Boston so cool, because
Yeah.
spectators like you,
Oh,
but
yeah.
everyone is like that. It was pretty cool. It was crazy.
Yeah, so fun.
All right, so let's dive into what we're excited about for the rest of the year. Again, kind of like the first question. It's like, all right, how do you boil it down? So if you have like some honorable mentions, feel free to cue those up. Tommie, I'll go with you as well, just for symmetry's sake, to kind of kick it off. But yeah, if you have more than one, of course, dial those up. But I think there's going to be a ton of races, but also because the Olympic year is coming quick, especially in the marathon, like the fall is going to be a lot different than previous falls. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what people are excited about, and also to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I don't mind going first. Thank you so much. I think thanks for teeing it up. You did a great job. You're doing a great job moderating this call, by the way.
I'm trying to filibuster as long as I can so you can come up with an answer. Obviously, you were trying to do the same.
No, I think I'm really excited about the marathon as well. I think Chicago is going to be very, very exciting. Let's talk about Berlin. I think Berlin's going to be great because I'll be there, so I'm excited to go and like have be
Which one aren't you going to? I think we should just start the opposite.
Problem. So I'm not sure. But yeah, so going to Berlin, so that's gonna be great. Kipchoge's going back to try to run fast again to prove to himself that he's like fast and stuff. So that'd be cool to like witness and see or whatever from way behind. But Chicago is gonna be exciting because of like what you guys are talking about, that like women's running is like amazing right now, and there's so many different stories, so many different women that are gonna be racing. Like almost everyone that you could think that you'd want to see go head to head will be there. It's a very strong American women's field right now for that are going to be in Chicago. So I just can't wait to see like what that looks like, how that plays out on a really fast course. And then obviously, we got Worlds coming up, which is great. So I'm just like, there's so much to look forward to in the next couple months.
Laura, I'm going to dive over to you next, just to follow up on something that Tommie said. Do you think that folks are going to be just viewing Chicago, when I say folks, I mean like the pro runners, are going to be viewing Chicago as an A race and treating it as such in training and on race day, or is it still going to be kind of like a B+ race with eye towards the trials?
No, I think it's going to be an A race for sure. Just the women I've talked to who are running it, it's an A race, man. Like they're going for records.
Yeah.
Everyone's going all in. That's doing it. I think a lot of the women going in are viewing it as a trials preview, honestly. So because of that, people want to show up, and people really want to smash one out. And it's the perfect timeline. I mean, it's far enough away where the trials are far enough away from Chicago where you can show up and really hammer, and then come off of that, recover, shift gears, and then go into the trials. And who doesn't want to go into the Olympic marathon trials with confidence of like an American record or, a top 3 finish at Chicago? I mean, I think we're going to see one hell of a race in Chicago. And so I think everyone towing that line, especially on the American side of things, is going to bring their A game. And is training for this almost like a mini trials. So I'm pretty pumped for it. I can't wait to see. I think we're going to see some things all the way through that field. So yeah, I want to go because I feel like I'm going to have FOMO like not being there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I should just go.
Can we hang
Like,
out?
be there. Yeah, so I was
Laura.
like, let's do a relay thing. Lindsay, if I come,
Can we
hang
cheer
out?
together? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Stephanie,
perfect.
you want to come teach us how to cheer? Get those listies from the
I'm not
cowbells.
here.
Do we need a training session first?
Yeah, it sounds like I need to practice. I should start that now.
Yeah, you gotta
And
build
we
up
should
to
get
this.
our hands like calloused for a bit.
Yeah. But yeah,
Isn't it
I'm
cheering
so
gloves?
pumped for that. I can't wait. So Lindsay, let's do it.
Laura, you and I met for the first time in Chicago last year. In
we
person.
did in person. Yeah,
Like we
did.
talked multiple times
See, it's
before,
our
but
anniversary, Liz.
It's our anniversary.
1 year.
I was like, we just looked at each other and we were like, oh my gosh, and
Yeah.
hugged, and you were just so nice and normal.
Thanks. I try to show that side more.
All right, so Laura, what are you most excited about for the rest of the year? Is that it? Is it Chicago? Or you
Well,
got another
obviously
one?
Chicago's my big one. But all the falls, like Berlin is always fun to watch. And now that I know Tommie's going to be there, I'll obviously really be cued in. And then Worlds. I'm obviously really pumped for Worlds. Like I was saying earlier, the track and field world all the way through is just on fire. And if USA's was any indication of what's coming, I think we're in for a really fun, 10 days coming up. So I can't wait to break that down.
All right. Peter, how about you?
I think about the fall marathon season like it's like my NFL season, like as a fan. You know, like you see things on Instagram like NFL games are 54 days away, or or some guys do that for the college football, and I just think about it like I can just ride the wave of excitement from one marathon to the next. And as much as we're talking about the pros, I mean, we all love amateur marathoning, but I'm just like, this amateur fall is going to be bonkers. To be totally honest, I think there's going to be just like cataclysmic blow-ups and like a lot of mental anguish for a lot of people, which I'm like here for supporting my friends, but also like as a fan, like this shit's gonna get wild. So like, everyone's like, oh, McCurdy's putting on a perfectly paced 4-loop around a pond with pacers and bottles, and I hear that and I'm like, nice, check. Oh wait, pressure cooker. Everyone, zero excuses, perfect weather, perfect pacing. I mean, it's like, get some reality show producers.
I can't wait. I'm going to that. I cannot wait.
I just want to we gotta have someone just like, I mean, it sounds sick, but just zooming in on like as people just like. Because my favorite thing is like, I know a lot of these people and they're like, I just don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. And I'm like, you don't know what happened when you ran like above your threshold for like 2 hours and then your body just like exploded. I know what happened. I'm like, good on you. You you just ran like out of your mind, but then your body found, it's like your body is looking for a way to be like, uh-oh. And it's like the systems are checking in with each other. Are you aware that this woman is totally out of her mind and she's going to send us off a cliff? And you're like, like hamstrings, take her down. Like, this is too much. It's not possible. So I'm excited to see these people throw themselves out there. I'm going to be running CIM and will not be heading out on the OTQ pack, but I'm excited for just like all the excitement for the final weekend of it. But I think there's going to be some great performances and some epic blow-ups in the fall, and it's all going to like culminate in December.
Yeah, the pre-Olympic fall is like pretty exciting, especially like on the road side of things with all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun time. It's a fun time.
I
It
know,
is
I
a
sound
pressure
like
cooker
the
though.
track athletes and how they're like sitting around all fall. I mean, and then it's like, I mean, we'll talk about the track trials next spring, but it's just so brutal. It's like sitting around like all fall. Maybe if you're fit and you're like, let me at it. It's like, no, you gotta like maybe just build more base, because like the only day that matters is next July or whatever. It's just nuts. So
I don't know. I think someone should try to convince Alicia Munson to go after the half marathon record.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
She is scary right now. Man.
It's
I'm like,
wild.
there's
I mean,
nothing she couldn't do.
I mean, honestly, like, could she not do that? I mean,
No, she
no,
could do
like,
that.
everyone was.
I mean, yeah.
she's with her 10K performance. I mean, it's got to be a pretty similar system we're talking about here.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time. Like, that's the thing, as like an older road athlete. Like, I'm watching the track world and I'm like, oh dear God, like she's coming up next. Like, you're just like,